Catapult pancakes lobbed at me. Syrup and butter, they are killing we. The castle destroyed by yummy dessert. Who'd have thought it could do that much hurt?
There are two aspects of the following video that I'm going to be talking about. One is the failure of the video to teach a 6-year-old two different concepts of ethics. And then the second part of the video that I'm going to talk about are the ethics themselves and other ethical systems that are worthwhile to consider and think about. So with that in mind, here we go.
Someone asked me to explain the difference between moral realism and moral relativism in metaethics on a level that a 6-year-old could understand. So here is my explanation on a 6-year-old's level of metaethics. Good guys are really good. Bad guys are really bad. Normal people know this. What normal people think, who acknowledge that good guys are really good and bad guys are really bad, is called moral realism.
The good guy wears a white hat and the bad guy wears a black hat. But what makes the good guy good and what makes the bad guy bad? The 6-year-olds have by now played some sort of game. They might have played cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians or at least something like that. Well, what makes the bad guys bad? It's not very clear with the cowboys and Indians. It's a bit more clear with cops and robbers. But I think there's a few shows from my childhood that I can point to and discuss what it is to be good or what it is to be bad. And of course, you would want to find shows from the era of the child that you're speaking to be able to extract from those shows' ethics to talk to the child in question, rather than referencing shows that they might have never seen. But these are shows I'm familiar with, and other 80s children would be familiar with, so I'm speaking from my perspective. The show Transformers has Autobots and Decepticons, and the Autobots want to protect the Earth, and the Decepticons want to destroy the Autobots. The Autobots want to protect humans. The Decepticons are willing to destroy and use humans. The Decepticons want Energon. The Autobots do too, but they aren't willing to take it. They'd rather earn it in a peaceful way. Ask for it. And even perhaps work for it. The Decepticons attack, the Autobots defend. In the show He-Man, you've got He-Man and Skeletor. He-Man defends Castle Grayskull, and Skeletor attacks it. In the show Power Rangers, Zordon tells the Rangers that they aren't to initiate the attacks. They're there to defend. They're not to escalate the attack. If the bad guy escalates, then you escalate in response. So you don't just turn into the Zord and stomp them when they're small. You fight them at the same level. And it's them that increase that, not you. So here I think we have a hero-villain archetype. You have the hero who protects, and the villain is the one who attacks. The hero never initiates the fight, but is willing to fight to defend and protect the place or the people involved. The bad guy seeks to attack and seeks to destroy. That's something that a 6-year-old could comprehend. You've explained what makes the good guys good. The good guys are good because they do not attack first. They defend. They're not proactive. They are reactive. The police don't go out to shoot the bad guy before they know he's bad. The bad guy shows that he's bad or she's bad, and the police react to that issue. They go to stop the bad guy, but not in a way that will kill the bad guy if that can be helped. So their responses are measured, whereas the bad guys aren't concerned with those sort of rules. The bad guys cheat, the good guys follow the rules. These are simple concepts that a 6-year-old could understand, and it actually helps define what good and bad are, which is not done when you just say it's good because they're good, and it's bad because they're bad. That doesn't explain anything to anybody.
Some very misguided people, called moral relativists, protest against this idea. They claim that good and bad are just opinions. So the difference between good guys and bad guys isn't that they're really good or really bad. The difference is only our opinion.
This won't teach the 6-year-old about moral relativism either. And there's a couple of problems here. First, you've cast it in a poor light already. Some misguided people think the following. Well, you're already treating this as being something wrong, something inappropriate, something not worth considering. Then the second problem is you haven't really explained what it is at all. Just, well, good and bad are opinions. Well, what does that mean? Okay. An example to use would be cowboys and Indians. And to ask, what makes the Indians bad? What makes the cowboys good? See, asking the child these questions makes them think about what is going on. And depending on those answers, you'd further draw out more ideas from them. But at any rate, well, couldn't we see the cowboys as bad? They have guns that are far faster and reach further than the bow and arrows. And the Indians are just trying to protect their land. So, aren't the Indians the good guys? And from that perspective, well, who's really right? Is it the Indians or is it the cowboys? Or does it depend on how you look at it? And that's moral relativism. That things are different depending on how we look at it. That it might be true that to defend is still heroic and good, and the Indians are defending their land. Well, then the villain is the cowboys because they're attacking their land. But on the other side, the cowboys are good because they're defending land that was given to them by the government. And the Indians are coming to attack them, so they're defending something. So the cowboys are good and the Indians are bad. And trying to figure out who really is good and who really is bad and why is the problem that moral relativism is trying to acknowledge. I think that that's a much better way to explain moral relativism to a 6-year-old.
This means the Nazis killing millions of innocent people wasn't really bad, but only bad in our opinion, which can't really be better than the Nazis' opinion, since the idea of better would again only be opinion.
again, casting a very poor light on moral relativism and how it really functions, not really teaching the 6-year-old anything. They've already heard about Nazi Germany? A 6-year-old? Really? Man, we didn't learn about that when we were that young, but okay, maybe they've updated when kids learn about such things. But from the viewpoint of the person that's serving in the army, they are defending their land. So for them, that's good. And they wouldn't be doing what they're doing unless they were convinced that what they're doing is good. So yes, from their viewpoint, what they're doing is good. And from somebody else's viewpoint, what they're doing is bad. But what makes it bad? Well, they're destroying something. They're destroying people. They're destroying places. That's bad. What makes the other side good? Well, they're trying to protect and save those lives and make it so that those people stop hurting other people. And that's good. So you've got a little mix of both there. You can have your moral realism and your moral relativism both be served in that example. Although, again, I'm not sure that Nazi Germany is something that a 6-year-old would know about or relate to, but regardless, it's a far better way to approach this, a far more honest approach to it, because it shows that these questions aren't settled. It's not a matter of, well, see, they're bad and we're good. Well, what they did was bad. Well, why? Because they're hurting people. That's bad. That's bad. But they didn't see it as bad. They saw it as good. Well, why? Well, we can talk about that. What would convince you that hurting somebody is good? There might be a lot of things that could potentially convince you that hurting somebody is good. So you need to decide if hurting somebody would ever be good under any circumstance. And if you think that the answer is no, then there you have it. You have a moral realism that still recognizes that somebody could potentially see it as good no matter what. Maybe there's somebody on the opposite side of that who thinks that killing is always good in every circumstance. And kids can play pretend pretty darn well. Although, again, I'm not sure that you'd want to mix in killing with it. Maybe just attacking would be better, but it depends on the maturity of the kid and how much they understand and all those things. There's a lot of variables involved. But I think that that's a far more honest approach. But this video, I don't think, is going for an honest approach.
If moral relativism is true, then we can't really be justified in saying the Nazis were wrong. We can only say that we don't like the Nazis.
If all else fails, appeal to those Nazis. The more I learn about Hitler and the Nazis, the more I just really don't like these people. I just don't think that I'm a hater, but I just don't like Hitler. But that's just my opinion. Not that that validates anything. This idea that opinions somehow don't matter is something that I just don't agree with. People's opinions are formulated based on something, some idea, some argument. Maybe there aren't, and so their opinion would then become invalid, but what's the argument behind that opinion? That's what matters. But again, it doesn't really tell you why they're bad or why they're evil. What was it that they did that was so horrible? Well, but we all know that. I don't know that a 6-year-old would know about the Holocaust, but maybe they would. I don't know. But I'm just saying, look, if you're going to just say, well, it's just opinion, of course this is an appeal to consequence, and it doesn't really resolve why you should think something is wrong versus right. And that's the problem that this video continues to have. It fails to do what it sets out to do. It's not teaching what these ethical systems are to anybody.
But we know the Nazis were wrong. And if we know that the Nazis were wrong, then moral relativism must not be true.
Well, then I guess that moral realism is false, because it's not true that people just know this. Both at the time that it happened and the people that were doing it, and even today. This is something that you have to learn. Knowledge is not just something that you have in your head magically. This is ridiculous. This is what utterly fails in these sort of presentations about moral realism. People don't just know that something is good or bad, and it makes the whole argument fail when you suggest it, because it's mind reading, and it also goes against how we understand that people learn ethics and moral values. Also, the people that participated in these acts didn't go in believing that these acts were bad. They went in believing that they were doing the right thing. Now, these acts were slowly introduced, and it's something about the human condition where you can erode your own morals and ethical values if you're put in a position with enough pressure applied. There's been study after study done where people have just role-played as prisoners and guards, and there's this dynamic that develops between the two groups. The guards at first treat the prisoners well, and the prisoners behave, but then eventually the guards get more strict and the prisoners start misbehaving, and it actually gets worse and worse as time goes on. And they fall into these patterns and these roles. When you're given a thing to do by an authority, and you're then told that the thing you're doing is right, you can be made to believe that it's right. Now, maybe you have an initial problem with it, but the more pressure that's applied, the more you change. Maybe it's unsettling to consider that we would also wind up acting like the Nazi guards in concentration camps if put in the right circumstances. That most of us would fail in that regard. A brave few might resist, and a few people did. They didn't become a guard in the first place. And then even more brave people ran underground railroads to get people out of there. But that's the minority and not the majority. But you still don't believe or just know that something is good or bad. You have to be taught that. And you have to remind yourself about this. And you have to be vigilant about that. And given the situation that the Germans found themselves in, such a brutal environment that they were in, well, sadly, that was the right environment for something like this to happen. And it just denies human nature when you suggest that we just know that it's bad. Then that means they knew that it was bad and did it anyways? No, it doesn't work like that. And again, if it was true, then we wouldn't really need to teach anyone that this is wrong. We wouldn't even have to say that. We'd just all know it was wrong, and we wouldn't need a lesson. You wouldn't have to teach 6-year-olds about moral realism if it actually worked this way. So if you want to make an argument for moral realism, you need to drop this whole claim to knowledge bit, because it really screws up the argument more than it's already been screwed up by this particular presenter in this particular video.
However, moral relativists usually don't actually support the Nazis. Most of them just aren't educated or intelligent enough to recognize the problem with saying the Nazis weren't really wrong.
Okay, now you're just strawmanning and mudslinging and poisoning the well, and this is no longer directed at 6-year-olds, so this whole bit needs to just be gone from your video. But, it's part and parcel of what I've come to expect from this video so far.
The real reason they want to say all this is to justify getting rid of social pressures against sexual promiscuity.
Whoa there. Enough with the mind reading and talk about a non sequitur. Where did this come from? The people that want to get rid of the idea of a real right and real wrong are doing this because they want sexual promiscuity to be more of a thing. Even some moral realists want more of that. So what? No, what? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? And this definitely isn't teaching the 6-year-olds anything.
And that is my explanation of the most basic question in metaethics on a 6-year-old's level. If you would like to hear more philosophy concepts explained in this format, please let me know in the comments.
No, I never want you to do this ever again, but you're probably not going to listen to me. So, wow, this didn't teach 6-year-olds anything. It didn't teach adults anything. It was full of logical fallacies, red herrings, poisoning the well, mudslinging, mind reading, left, right, up, and down, and then non sequitur to top it all off. Well, the reason that people want to do this, which is mind reading, is because of this thing. What? We all just know that this is true. No, we don't. What the... Yeah. So, no, it failed on every conceivable level that it could fail, and taught no one anything. Other than, I can use it as a thing to not do. It's like, this is an example of how not to teach things. So, in that sense, I guess it was the teaching aid. An example of how not to do things. So it's like the movie The Room is a good thing for film students to watch so they know what to not do. It's like, here's what you don't do. See this? Don't do that. But whereas some people can enjoy that, like, ironically, nobody can enjoy your video at all, at any level. What do you mean that's mind reading? Oh, bleep. That's mind reading to say. Maybe somebody somewhere can enjoy it, but that somebody isn't me. You didn't have a logically coherent argument. The other thing is, of course, you didn't have empirical evidence or repeatable tests because this was about philosophy, but you didn't present it in any coherent manner that was even about the thing that you were trying to make it be about. You didn't teach the thing, so you fail. Epic fail. Fail. What? I should stop the video now? I'm just ranting? No, I want to keep going. No, you can't stop. No.